Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Daily Footy and Other Sports with Taz and of course Sean. Say hello, Sean. There he is.
Hi.
Before we kick off, literally right seconds before we started making this video, I've just seen confirmation that the three divisions of the English National League have been suspended indefinitely because of the coronavirus. Prior to this, you may have heard that the all non-league football from steps 3 to 7 had been postponed. It's just now been confirmed that all three divisions of the English National League have also been suspended. So currently it's just the league formats that are live at the moment. But yeah, there you go. I didn't even tell Sean that this is going to happen. I've literally just read it. There's not much to update in terms of or comment on, but I just thought I'd throw it out there. So could the other leagues follow? It's one for you all to ponder.
That's why you have to subscribe, guys. That's why you have to subscribe. Content like that.
Surprises like that. Now, I mean, going back to, I think we have to start from start with yesterday to begin today. For those of you that saw the end of the video yesterday, you may have heard the mention of Helmut Marko, one of the chiefs of Red Bull in Formula One. But I didn't tell you what he said. And for those of you that still aren't aware of what he said, he actually had this farcical proposal that the F1 drivers within Red Bull put themselves into a public scenario so that they'd get the virus. He actually said that, get the virus so that they'd be able to recover from it just as quickly and then be fit and ready when the season resumes. Understandably, the team principal, Christian Horner, absolutely flabbergasted by this, and he's baffled by what on earth he was thinking with that, because at the end of the day, the sad truth is, doesn't matter whether you're an elderly person or a very young person, there are still sadly people who are in the mid-ranges that are being affected by this. So
a 12-year-old, has been just documented an hour ago as the youngest victim to coronavirus. So as you said, it's no joke about it just being elderly. Although statistically, a lot of the people dying in Italy, for example, 80% of the people affected, and in Spain as well. But it does affect every other one. Actually, one of my close friends, he's living in Bali. Unfortunately, last night, he messaged me like 5 in the morning. He just contracted the virus himself as well. And we send our prayers that hopefully he will recover as soon as possible.
Well, yeah, I mean, a close friend of mine was due to head out to Bali, I think, start of next month. Obviously, I kept on saying, don't even think about it. And he said, it's basically too late to cancel in his mind. And at that time, flights and restrictions weren't put in place. But, not long after that, flight cancellations, government restrictions, border entry and things like that, they were starting to be put in place, and he had absolutely no say in the matter anymore. It wasn't going to happen. So, yeah, it's hard to know what to say really in that instance. I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to mention it is just because a few people have thought rather absurdly about the whole situation, and Helmut unfortunately has been guilty of that. However, I read not long after that a positive surrounding F1 and the fact that a lot of these mechanics and engineers are using their know-how and their knowledge and their skills to try assisting in making ventilators to help the NHS. I mean, F1 drivers and indeed F1 companies, what are they called? Constructors, sorry, F1 constructors are given an awful lot of money with the greatest respect, they don't need it at the moment because there's nothing happening. So the fact that they're able to and are willing to use the money to both come up with ideas to improve things and of course build as many ventilators as much as possible is fantastic. You realize very quickly you're not that far away from somebody who works either in the front line or in the NHS, and everybody's got to help out. I think I read that some absurd kid basically thought it would be fine to just smash someone's window in, who's, by the way, they're a doctor, and try to nab something from a car. Obviously they got apprehended, but what are you doing? Firstly, stay at home, and secondly, this is not the time to start doing stupid things because you don't know, for example, where complete strangers have and haven't been. So stay safe. But it was an interesting start to our conversation really today, because I mean it was sort of the frankly absurd, and and then you got the frank look on doing that, and then we got the kind of inspired part of what F1 are doing at the moment. So I don't think I need too much time from you in this one, but what are your thoughts? It's probably like idiot, yay.
Yeah, that's it. And it's very important to talk about both sides, so we do not suddenly start hating on a sport just because of one person. As you said, there's so many more to do with the sport are trying to encourage unity and positivity, just like we are, like the virtual Formula One racing tournaments that we spoke about before. That's it.
Yeah, it's just you can actually do other things, within your sport. Weirdly enough, even though it's computerized, you can still do stuff. So Lando Norris, he's one of the young guns in the sport, and I'd probably argue he's one of the sort of headline acts in the whole esports thing at the moment. So go Lando, love you guys. But yeah, another very quick update. It's on Wimbledon. Unsurprisingly, we weren't really sure when this would happen, but unsurprisingly, they've got emergency meetings that have literally just started regarding the postponement of Wimbledon. Sounds pretty straightforward. Granted, it's about how long is it?
August?
About 3 months. 3 months away.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, 3 months away. It's about to be April.
Yeah.
3 months away from being expected to start. It's not beyond the realms of possibility that it could happen, but it doesn't seem like the most feasible thing in the world, and it certainly doesn't seem very feasible with potentially empty grandstands. And it's just, but yeah, we just thought we'd give you a quick update on that. They have actually begun emergency meetings. It's probably the biggest slam in the year in tennis, depending on which event that you love the most.
Andy Murray.
Well,
he broke the record.
What record?
100 years of waiting for a British champion.
Oh, I knew you'd mess it up. 77. It was 76 years.
Casual.
In the 76th year, he had the opportunity to sort of, win the title for the first time since Fred Perry. But unfortunately, he had that heartbreaking loss to Federer, and first time we actually saw Murray cry. And those that he didn't endear himself to before, he certainly did after that. But he came back and beat Djokovic the year after. Incredible. So there, get your facts right. Come on, we're here to give people, accurate facts. And I remember when Baz came on, Armanov, I think that's what you call him, isn't it? He put us in our place and said, guys, you're being idiots. General is a lefty, plays on the left. We're here to be corrected if we do it. and that's why I've got to correct you when you make mistakes.
Feel free to comment. Feel free to comment as well, guys.
Yeah,
As well.
please feel free to call Sean a melon. Yeah, we just see the word melon just coming up on repeat. The next one's another bit of farcical. I don't even know what to call it. It's just sheer idiocy. I mean, seems to be a few people doing that at the moment. It's Jack Grealish. Do you want to take reins on this one? I mean, I'm pretty annoyed by it, but
So it's interesting because from our previous conversation, we spoke about Man United's needs for budgeting. Okay, let's not. Let's bring up the story because it's not necessarily a Man United related topic. It could be eventually.
Not immediately. It will. I mean, like towards the
Yeah.
end of the topic, yeah, but not immediately. No.
It's basically, he's a player that seemed to have started quite badly. When Aston Villa relegated, he was seen partying, seen knocked out in I think it was Ibiza, where he was just fans just see him knocked out, drunk on the ground, knocked out, and it's not the message that a professional footballer needs to send. And it was given the common theme where young footballers are paid too much at a young age, unable to fulfill the potential. But then this player seemed to have it had a massive U-turn, was beginning to show his potential, and was linked to Mr. Taz's Man United.
Yeah.
And what do you believe now?
It's. I mean, we sort of discussed this before we went live, didn't we? Although it wouldn't be live for everyone watching right now. But we basically just sort of spoke about this and just thought, well, Ole's currently have to deal with a guy who's partying too much, being, rather silly and immature on social media, and that's Jesse Lingard. And I don't know whether that's a factor in his poor performances or anything like that this season, or whether he's just going through a horrendous patch which he just can't make up. He can't really come back from at United, but he doesn't need another guy like that. Such is the gap between some of the the incidents going on with Grealish. Maybe it was just a one-off, but in a time, this isn't a normal period of time. This is a time where everyone needs to just get urgent shopping done and then just go home. You don't
He
go talking to your
actually
friends.
was advising people. He actually advised people just moments before.
Yeah, and then he gets a text or something from his mate, and he says, "Come on over if you want," and he gets on his bike and drives recklessly. Arguably so recklessly that I don't know whether the confirmed report is saying, but it sounds very drink driving-esque, doesn't it? I mean, don't quote me on that, anyone, and if I'm wrong, but it wasn't like he just crashed into one car. He sort of banged into a couple on the way, and it just like, even if it was like a one-off sort of thing and he hadn't done something in the past, it's a very stupid thing to do, and it's a very stupid thing to do before what we expect would be a likely big move. He's not just linked to United, so it's very possible that other sides are going to be equally put off, because you don't want that kind of immaturity in your team.
Liverpool is a great example. They were linked momentarily.
Yeah, that's why I said he was linked to other teams as well.
And Klopp hates that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's the thing. And for that very simple reason, in the past we'd sort of discussed Maddison or Grealish, and I always said Grealish because he was a cheaper option. He's probably a hard-working, all-round option. He's a leader. He's got the captain's armband, so he backs that up. And I think Maddison, he needs to bulk up a little bit more, so he doesn't have the strength factor as much. He doesn't really run. He works very hard, but he doesn't run back in the same way. and he'll cost 20, 30, 40 million more than Grealish. It's very feasible that he might have to come back into the frame again.
Yeah.
Of course, that's questionable depending on whether Pogba comes, stays or goes anyway. But assume he does, maybe Maddison's suddenly a more feasible option. Boyhood United fan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look at the attitude. Yeah. And as you said, another example I'd like to mention in terms of attitude is another young player. The last ever signing of the greatest manager of all time, look, spoiler alert, Sir Alex Ferguson. He signed Wilfred Zaha, a young prodigy that destroyed teams in the championship.
Oh.
And then it just took him 3 months. We all know he had a issue with David Moyes because David Moyes is a protective father, seemingly. And then now this is a player after 3-4 years of that, I should say 5-6 years of that failed transfer to Man United, is now being hoisted to clubs for 80 million. Bayern Munich were even linked to sign him in January. Everton were in August. So we're talking about not the quality of Jack Grealish because it's obviously there, but at a big club, you need to have the right mental mindset. And that's not, seemingly, it's probably a blessing in disguise for Ole to find this out now rather than later.
Yeah. Plus, in a climate where transfers are going to be very iffy to do anyway, because you don't really know what's going to happen with respective leagues. Like I just said, I mean, we're losing leagues indefinitely, right away. So, you could argue what league's going to be next.
Yeah.
So there might be a situation where I know the clubs are trying to get extended loan periods or something, or and that's exactly why signing like Igalo on a permanent basis for a year or two or something like that does make practical sense, because you don't actually know whether other clubs will be able to actually afford these new prices and feasibly be able to sell them.
Here's another positive. I've got another. Let's twist it, because we want to encourage all football clubs, or all fans of football clubs. Aston Villa may have been the biggest benefactor of this whole situation. We all know that Grealish, when he's on the pitch recently, has stepped up and shown the ability of being a reliable performer for Villa. And they had they beat Leicester to get to the finals. Although we did criticise Leicester having a dip, that was still tremendous to even go to Leicester's picture to Leicester in the first place. I forgot the name of the stadium. Yeah. So for Grealish to be able to do that, and Villa were having up and down dips where they were able to sometimes get out of the relegation zone. So if Villa were able to keep their place in the Premiership, then we're talking about a side that will keep a player perhaps now, because other clubs are too scared to go for him. And that's a good bonus for a club that needs a settled first 11, in which they have bought so many players, and this may help them in the long run.
Absolutely. He might have basically done something which I think Villa fans might sort of, be annoyed by, but might be able to keep him as a result of this. But he might very well have cost himself maybe the big move of his career. There might still be clubs that want him in the Premier League, but they're maybe more likely to be mid-table clubs who are sort of, maybe battered off a little bit more. If United do still go ahead and, put an offer in for him.
And how about Gareth Southgate? That's another factor. Everyone was talking about who should England select when it was Euro 2020. Now, if you've got a player that seems to be immature in your training camp, in which a lot of players have complained about the attitude problems we've had in the past, would you want to select someone who's just going to be a troublemaker? Although Dele Alli and Barkley have notoriously been spotted of being similarly.
He hasn't. I mean, it's a weird one. You ultimately want to get along with your team, right? And all of his issues have been off-field issues rather than on-field ones. I don't think he's had I don't think he's had scuffles and falling out with managers and players. So as a player, you wouldn't be quite as intimidated or annoyed by it, but it doesn't reflect well on him anyway.
You want to keep. We're not sure because you want to keep stuff behind the scenes. Like even Burnley Sean Dyche was quite professional about Danny Drinkwater's incident at the Manchester's nightclub at the nightclub in Manchester, and then ironically he was a Villa player for a while on loan. Maybe his influence rubbed Jack Grealish the wrong way.
I doubt it. I doubt it. We need to move on. Well, I say move on. It's also the final area. Sean wants to tell you guys a little bit about what's going on with Roman Reigns and Khabib. But he also knows he's got a bit of a time limit, so he can't go on and on the way he usually likes to. Off you go there.
I think it's quite extraordinary what's actually happened recently. So, first talk about UFC. So what's happened is that, as we alluded to beforehand, that Dana White did not want to attend an event that is still being scheduled to happen mid-April, April the 18th. However, the main event was meant to be between Khabib and Tony Ferguson. Khabib spoke on Instagram and alluded to that he's stuck in Russia and does not want to compete in the main event. This has now caused a furor of a lot of fighters saying, if you're not going to fight, I want to step up. So every fighter is, even Dustin Poirier and even the BMF Masvidal has all put their name forward. Even other fighters, Woodley, he wants to fight. Every other fighters that even Woodley was meant to have a fight on the match card. So it's quite controversial whether it's affecting the UFC's planning even further. And they even told Khabib that they do not want to hold the event either in the United Arab Emirates or America. So it seems a lot of bad planning is occurring, and perhaps it seems like they are trying to put the need of money over the health and welfare of these players, like the Formula One Red Bull's owner in the first place. And it just seems like either a calamity, or it could lead to new stars happening. Because if Masvidal fights Tony Ferguson, that's a massive, massive fight as well. Or Dustin Poirier, who was a great fighter, earned the right to fight Khabib when they fought beforehand in the UAE in the first place. And it's just, it leads to a lot of possibilities. And it gives MMA a good side and a bad side. And
or a wasted fight. Or a wasted fight if there aren't any fans there.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, these American companies, they want ratings. And that's quite controversial because WWE have actually suffered in that department because as humans, they want
XFL. Give me ratings.
Yeah, not only XFL, Raw got the second lowest non-seasonal rating in history. The Raw of last week. Even this week on Raw, we saw a lot of teams putting their health on the line. It was just a crazy dive by our tag team champions, just jumping over the ropes and without no fans, and arguably going to have another low rating. Why are you putting your health on the line? It's ridiculous. And what another story I really want to go into quickly was Roman Reigns. So everybody, it has not been alluded to yet on WWE TV weekly tapings. WrestleMania is about to happen this weekend, already been re-recorded. Roman Reigns has pulled out. And what's more, stories are breaking in, according to internet dirt sheets or internet sources, is that Roman Reigns was actually at Orlando, Florida. He was actually attended Orlando, Florida, the Performance Center, to compete and to fight against Goldberg. However, despite Stephanie McMahon's assurances that every single person, wrestler or non-wrestler, was going to be vigorously checked to make sure that their health is fine, they spotted Miz was found sick, really ill, and that led to the Usos being upset, and then Roman Reigns with an immunocompromised system have to bail it out as quickly as possible. And this is really big news now, is that Vince McMahon is notorious being after the money and doesn't really care about many other things. Miz has just not only cost Vince McMahon the main event of WrestleMania, he's also affected other people's health. And it just shows, is it actually Vince McMahon's fault? Is it Miz's fault? Or is it just the system that you're forcing guys to go into the to do some sports when they should be?
Football clubs can't just flat out stop playing unless the organization basically puts their foot down and says no. The only reason Arsenal and Chelsea pulled out was because they actually saw symptoms in players and managers as well. Otherwise, they would have probably carried on until the FA stepped in or the government, enforced the ban or postponement of all these games. And that's a problem. It's not the player's responsibility. It's not the manager's responsibility. It's not the club's responsibility as such. It's the ownership of the whole organisation. So you've got to blame Vince on that one. Should have just stopped.
Yeah, of course. He should have stopped it because we don't know. Miz must have a good reason. He may have a good reason. He's not just a single guy. He's got a wife. He's got 2 daughters. His wife, Maurice is about to have another child. I believe she's probably already had it. And so he's not a guy who's going to be reckless like that, just to go into the centre ill. He would have had presumably been checked as well. So it's quite controversial that a lot of these things are happening and it can affect other wrestlers as well. Who knows, someone may also show symptoms. We were talking about the nation that has been one of the last nations affected. Now they've usurped most of the world in terms of how many people are suffering from this deadly virus. And it just shows bad management, and it shows how it's affecting sport. That people that are being forced to fight then have to make the brave and right decision. The Roman Reigns had to even speak. A lot of fans were upset with him, calling him selfish. Believe it or not, he was saying, "Oh, you should have fought anyway. Just fought quickly and go," despite him having an immunocompromised system because of his leukemia. And he had to say, "Oh, you don't know about my background, but you shouldn't hate. We should be united," which is, you should have unity, should be positive, and which is basically the basis of this whole podcast, a YouTube video in the first place. Fellow sports fans.
He shouldn't have had to say it to begin with. Basic common sense and basic humanity should have dictated that they should have stopped weeks ago. Pre-recording, it's still basically, you're still doing that. You may as well have just done it on the right date, to be honest with you, because it wouldn't have made any difference. The whole point is you've got to stop, and simple as that. They can't be very far away from having to shut the doors completely. It's their own fault.
There's pressure.
Anyone gets affected.
There's actually pressure from Vince McMahon not to only stop any more recordings after WrestleMania, but to also to stop airing the possible WrestleMania matches, because rumors are suggesting that Vince McMahon was the only person of the boardroom to want the whole event to go ahead for an insurance scam, that he wanted to make sure that he doesn't lose too much money, and which seems to be the same case with UFC, with Dana White, and as you said, UEFA and FA. A lot of people are complaining too that we do not want to pay. Rooney has suggested it as well. I think you could elaborate on Rooney furthermore. It just shows that at least the English FA will have to step in at the end, but our players seen as cattle or guinea pigs is just ridiculous.
I think the initial thing is people try to sort of see how long it will last, and I think the second somebody got it, then they started going from team closures to eventual league closures. And if WWE wants to play with fire, then they're just putting their own athletes at risks, and I've got nothing else to say about it really. It's just idiotic behaviour really.
AEW as well, by the way.
I'm generalising on the wrestling front. They're all doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not forgiving anything. So we need to wrap it up though. We're trying to keep this video shorter. Because obviously we did sort of say to you guys, we want your opinion on whether you like to have shorter videos and therefore quick summaries like this one's sort of been, or longer discussion and things like that. So we've given you an option really. Yesterday's one dragged and dragged and dragged. I'm sorry about that. Sean had absolutely no prep. I prepped. I had a sheet of paper, remember? Sean on the other hand, none at all. But yeah, we'd also
my list is still changed.
Well,
my list is still changed.
No, nobody cares. That was yesterday's news, fake news. So we've given you a shorter video today, just sort of give you an idea of what a heavily packed shorter video is like. Would love your thoughts on what kind of video you prefer. But as ever, I really hope you guys have enjoyed it. Please don't forget to subscribe down there. I'll be doing that all the time. There you go. Yeah, Sean's got it right finally. And of course, hit the bell if you haven't already, and click on all so you're fully aware of when our upcoming videos come out. And we almost went through a whole video without him holding up one of his weird things.
If you guys want me to, that's a Goomba from Mario, man. Goomba. If you, my niece just dressed it up. If you guys want these toys not to pair, just let us know, comment, and I'll stop.
I'll do it personally. Right. I'll see you later, guys. Bye now.